The Freemasons balance these two pillars to master reality by revival of wisdom. Get it started.
In this video, we're going to be discussing the war between your mind and body, the war between the two pillars of life. We find them in the Knights Templar, the two pillars. We find them in the Hindu tradition with Vishnu standing in between two pillars. We even find it in the Christian tradition with Jesus standing in between two pillars. We find it pretty much everywhere. And the same symbolism is also reflected in Freemasonry. So what are these pillars? What do they represent? Why does every ancient culture show the same thing? Here we see Egyptian symbolism with the two pillars. It's all the same symbols, but what does it mean? Today we're going to be using the Masonic pillars because this is where I've done my most research. No, I'm not a Mason myself. However, I've done a lot of research and analyzed myself quite a lot to understand this symbolism, as it's always pointing towards you. You are the lodge. You are the temple. You are the divine. You are God experiencing itself. And these two pillars are which we experience life through. So in Freemasonry, we have these two pillars, and they're called Yakin and Boaz. However you want to say it, it doesn't really matter. Jachin and Boaz, Yakin and Boaz, they're simply just representing the two pillars you experience life through. On the right, we see a pillar with the moon on top of it, and here you normally see celestial bodies or the zodiac signs going across. On the left, you see an earth pillar associated with the sun also. These two pillars represent the two polar extremes of consciousness. The right side, associated with the moon and the celestial bodies in the zodiac, represents the celestial part of our consciousness, the spiritual part of our consciousness, which would be associated with the inner world inside yourself, the mind. So this would correlate to our thoughts, imaginations, emotions. These are celestial or spiritual or unseen because the moon rules over the nighttime, and the nighttime is associated with darkness. And when we close our eyes, we go into the darkness, symbolizing the internal world of consciousness. So this would represent the inner world inside the mind. This would represent the world outside the mind. This would represent the material world, the world of the five senses, the world of the body, taking actions. Therefore, there is always this battle in our life between these two pillars, between these two extremes. Just like how in politics, there's always a battle between the left and the right, Democrats and Republicans. It's all the same thing. There is a battleground here, and there is a battle between our mind and our body. Why is that? It's because the body seeks the pleasures of the senses. The body wants to feel good. It wants dopamine hits. It wants to eat all the time. It wants this. It wants that. It's always in this needing state. Because why? The body wants to survive. Its intelligence inside the body is basically to survive. It is our animal nature. That's not to say the body's inherently evil. However, it's programmed to survive. However, our mind, our celestial nature, is more divine. People tend to overlook the mind. The mind was considered in the old times and still is today in secret societies and occultism as the divine. It is a powerful force. If we think about it, the mind has no limitation nor restrictions. Your body can,
Which the divine being God, or in this case, since it's talking about our mind, is the manifestation of God, which is us, the mind.
be in your room, but your mind can be visualizing yourself walking up a hill in China or some random place that you're not meant to be. I'm basically pointing at the fact that the mind has no fixed location. It's interconnected somehow spiritually to everything. It's our divine power. So the mind is a very powerful force, and so is the body. And there's this constant war between our creative mind and our survival body. And what we have to do in life is find a perfect balance, because this left pillar is where I used to be stuck. And a lot of people in the world are only operating life in the left pillar, which is the material world, the world of the senses, the world of the brain, the nervous system. What happens if we only live life from this left pillar? Well, it would end up in being very impulsive, acting without reflection. Because if we act, which is the left pillar, without thinking, the right pillar, that creates impulsivity.
And notice.
This is
Look. You have act, which is on the sun side, representing masculinity. And on this side, creativity, thinking, reflection. The moon represented femininity. This whole art piece right here is the representation of us without having like the body. This is the temple. And we both embody masculinity and femininity. It's not just, because I'm a man, I'm masculine, or because she's a female, she's feminine. We embody both. When we can embody both, we can reach wholeness.
Decisions driven by appetite rather than discernment and reflection. We're not thinking about our actions, which produces chaos in our reality. If we only live from this left pillar, we also fall into the black hole of sensory addiction, over-identification with the five senses, constant stimulation of seeking pleasures of the five senses, inability to tolerate silence or stillness, always on the go. That's the left pillar. Lack of foresight. This means like short-term gain over long-term stability. That's what happens when we only think about the left pillar. Failure to consider consequences, left pillar. Again, reactivity, emotional volatility, easily triggered, behavior governed by external stimuli rather than our inner governance. That's a very, very big point. When we act and live only from this left pillar, what happens is that we simply react to the external world. And I know I've talked about this a lot, but we should not be reacting to the world over the top. We should have a perfect balance. We should react, use our mind to act accordingly, to think about things and then act. This,
aka responding to the world. Responding, not reacting. Reacting is from a place of not even thinking. When you react, you're not thinking, you're just doing, you're acting. You're using the masculine side of your brain where you're just doing, you're just acting, which I wouldn't say is totally bad, but in certain situations it's called for you to step back and think before you move, before you act, i.e. responding. This is something that I was working on a lot, like 2020, all of 2025, I was working hella on becoming less reactive of my reality and allowing to respond to my reality, respond to circumstances, respond to situations, respond to people instead of reacting. It's still a work in progress, but
left pillar is where I used to be stuck, and this is when life feels useless. I used to feel like life had no meaning and everything was evil and life had no point. It's the left pillar. It's the material body. It's the animal nature. It also results into ego inflation, identity rooted in dominance, status, sexuality, physical power, material possessions. Again, leading to no long-term happiness. External validation dependency, worth measured by appearance, wealth, sensual conquest. This is all the left pillar. And the last one will probably be like fragmentation. Without higher orientation, the psyche becomes scattered among desires. We have many different personalities on our mind when we identify with this ever-changing physical body, the left pillar. But then this right pillar is no better if we only live life from this right pillar. This right pillar, which would be associated with the moon or the mind, so this would be mind, body, and awareness. The eye represents the awareness, observing our mind, observing our physical reality. There is an unchanging unified awareness, observing your thoughts, hearing your imagination. For example, if you imagine a train passing, you can hear the train in your head. That's the observer of that. Who is listening to that? That's the observer. There is an unchanging part of ourselves, the observer, the universal essence of consciousness, observing mind and body. So this right pillar is no better if we only act and live life from the right pillar. If we only think all the time and never take action, then what's that going to lead to? That's going to lead to never actually changing your reality. If we sit around meditating all day, imagining our dream reality and never take action, it's never going to happen because there needs to be a perfect balance. And also, when you only act from the right pillar of life, the very spiritual side of life, you kind of lose yourself from reality. You're not anchored in the material world, living in concepts and esoteric knowledge rather than lived experience.
This is what we're talking about in a previous vid. The cost of esoteric knowledge, the cost of the spiritual journey is literally, like he said, what did he, you gain unearned wisdom. And unearned wisdom leads to a lot of chaos. But you're living within the spiritual aspect, living always within the spiritual and neglecting the human side of yourself, neglecting the ego, neglecting the identity, neglecting what's tangible here is very detrimental, because you won't be able to interact with people, interact with the world around you, you just won't be able to interact with this world. You won't be able to interact with everybody. To be honest, that's not good, bro. You should want to interact with other people. You should want to be grounded within the earth, basically. Living too much within your mind and the spiritual aspect would entail that you want to leave this earth. But when you ground yourself to the earth, you start to understand who you are as an individual, your identity, get to know yourself, life becomes more smooth, I guess you can say.
Experience. Ideas replace embodying truths, and that's what truth truly is, and esotericism truly is. It's not about just understanding these things esoterically. It's about finding a balance and actually applying the esoteric information and understandings we gain in our mind, in our material world, acting them out. It's about embodying the truth, not understanding it just intellectually. When we live from the right pillar, we also live in fear of failure. The mind anticipates every possible negative outcome, which prevents movement, it prevents action, it prevents experiencing life, materialism. And when you only act from the right pillar, your identity turns to just become an observer only, becoming a spectator of life rather than actually participating. And some spiritual consequences that you also gain from only acting from the right pillar would be false transcendence. We find this a lot today. When I began my journey, I started to transition from this pillar all the way far right to the next pillar, only living in spirituality, only living from this, understanding. But it's a false transcendence. Believing one is elevated simply because one understands more concepts. It kind of builds this spiritual ego. It also gives you pride of intellect, mistaking knowledge for wisdom. We shouldn't be proud of our wisdom. We shouldn't be proud of these things. We're all oneness. We're all one big family. I'm not better because I know more esoteric information than the other person. That other person is going to be better than me at other things that I'm not good at. We're all balanced. We're all one. So the right pillar can also be a trap as well. And again, disconnection from earth, losing touch with instincts, sensual life, and embodied truths. We have to find a perfect balance in life. And when it comes to manifestation, it's the exact same. If we want to change reality, we must think, feel, and imagine the reality in the right pillar and take action accordingly to generate the thought into a physical idea. To bring the divine inspiration down into the material plane, we have to find this middle pillar in life, balancing between mind and body. And if we go even further into this symbolism here and look at it from a whole image instead of dissecting it into left and right, we're looking at the number 11 pretty much. It's 1 and 1. This is duality and polar opposites. If we look at it from a generic state, we're looking at two polar opposites, however they're a mirror of each other. This mirrors this, the right mirrors the left, symbolizing mind mirrors matter, matter mirrors mind. They are two polar opposites, but they are in fact one. Mind creates matter. Matter is a reflection of mind.
And I was talking about this in the last vid as well. Duality and dualism and non-dualism. How us as manifestations of God are non-dual and dual at the same time. We have the dualism part. Mind, matter, masculine, feminine, left, right, thinking, acting. But together, when you balance it all together, you have awareness of both. And this all turns into non-dualism. So in a sense, we're whole once we come to the understanding and the awareness of our dualism, of the dual aspects of ourselves.
Because where you are in reality right now is simply the cause and effects produced by every thought you thought in the past. Everything you possess in the left pillar, the material world, is simply a reflection of the thoughts that you thought inside your mind, your spiritual world. They're mirrors of each other. It's showing you that mind and matter are reflections, and this is where we get the saying, as above, so below from, because what we think about in this pillar ultimately becomes reflected in our actions and material world. And
you see, in this pillar right here, the feminine aspect or the mind aspect, the reason why you see, the thing about it is when you're manifesting, right? It don't even have to be you trying to manifest something into reality or like you consciously trying to manifest. We manifest off the rip. It doesn't happen just consciously. It's an unconscious thing as well. The goal is to consciously manifest. The goal is to consistently consciously manifest. The thing is, to be explaining it with this pillar thing, is you use the mind, the feminine, the mind, the thought aspects, right? This aspect comes first with your thought patterns, the way you think, whether it's negative, whether it's positive, whether it's whatever. You use this aspect to constantly bring or to create what you want into the matter, the masculine, the world, I guess you can say. But these two, they don't happen simultaneously. This has a delay. So where you are right now is a direct delay from what your thoughts were previously. So let's say if you had previously let's say you had, all right, put it in perspective. Let's say before you were consciously manifesting, before this, when you were unconsciously manifesting, you had very negative thought patterns. You had very negative ways of being, very negative aspects about yourself, and your mind was always running negative circumstances, situations, and outcomes. You then, once you transitioned from manifesting consciously, you would have then that act of negatively thinking would have manifested into your reality. So then now when you're consciously manifesting, now you're positively thinking or thinking in a manner that's going to get you to your desired reality. That's going to be a delay. There is really no time limit on when the manifestation comes, but the mind always has a delay before it manifests into the matter. The mind always has a delay before it manifests into the matter.
Your friendships and everything about your left pillar, your material world, your friends, the people you associate yourself with, your environment that you're in. If you think about alcohol, you're going to be in the alcohol environments. If you think about love, wisdom, then you're going to find yourself in the external world in places like that, like libraries, or I don't know, not many people go to libraries anymore. I don't go to libraries, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? Everything that happens here is reflected here. So it's the inner and outer reflected. Mind creates matter. Matter is reflected in mind. And it's the same with your body, right? If we think negative thoughts and stress all the time, what happens to the body? Well, the body responds to these negative thoughts. It commands the body. And what happens? Our hair starts to turn grey from stress and negative thoughts. So the body's a reflection of the mind. And this may be a touchy, subject for some people. But for example, if you're overweight and you know you're overweight, right? That is a reflection of your mind. If you're in very good shape, that is a reflection of your mind. A strong body reflects a very strong and disciplined mind. Now, that doesn't make me better than anyone else or you better than me. I'm just simply stating the obvious facts. This is the reflections of mind and body, and there is a constant war between them. Like I said earlier, that the mind wants to create things, it wants to manifest things in its natural state. Well, the higher mind does. And the body wants to seek survival and pleasure, and they're always battling each other. And this battle has been talked about for thousands and thousands of years between light and darkness. It is the internal battle in your mind, a psychological battle between mind and body, between your higher self, your spiritual nature, and your material instinctual survival nature. We all have this sometimes. Our mind wants to create something new. For example, me, I want to write a new book, and then my body will say, I want to do this. I feel like I want to do this, or go eat, go do this pleasure. There's always this battle that we're fighting, and you'll find this in, movies, you'll find this everywhere, because these are the two polar extremes. Like I said, we need to be balanced in the middle. You can go down this right path, and that's what most people call a monk. A monk is pure right-hand path, that they give up everything material, very disciplined, very internal, meditating all the time. Then you have the left pillar, which is what we call Satanism, which is just worship of material things, identifying the self with the body, chasing status, chasing illusions, money, things like that. These teachings here is not about giving up material things. It's not about giving this up. It's about experiencing these things, but remaining balanced, remaining rooted in our spiritual nature, while still having abundance in our material world. Having abundance doesn't mean you're satanic. As long as you don't identify with the status, the ego, and the success, and you constantly want more and more and more and more, that's when consciousness becomes very, very attached to the left pillar, the material and the bodily side. So we have to find this perfect balance if we want to live a happy life, a down-to-earth life, and have a balanced mind, pretty much. That we should have our spiritual practices, and we should have our actions that generate abundance in our world. Or it's completely up to you. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just showing you these are the paths in life that you can take. You have the left, middle, or the right pillar. You can feel free to choose any. Ultimately, they all lead to the same truth. If you take the left pillar, you will eventually become very tired of that, because everything that is built upon a lie builds up in the unconscious mind and eventually cracks, and everything comes falling down. So they all lead to the same ascension, pretty much, just in different ways. And this is why I think esotericism and studying consciousness and the human psyche is just so fundamental in life. Because once you understand consciousness, you understand how you work, you understand the different sides of yourself, you can then apply that into your job, your desired reality, your relationships. Once you understand consciousness, it is the foundation to succeed in any path that you go down, whether that's materially or spiritually. It is the fundamental thing to understand. I used to suffer because I never understood myself. Knowledge of self is the only thing we can truly know in life. Now, what do I mean by that? We can never get to fully know the world outside of us. We can never come into full contact with the world outside of us, because the world outside of us is simply just a simulation produced by the brain and nervous system. Our soul never truly, the observer, the soul, never truly comes into contact with the external world. It can never truly know it. The only thing the soul has direct contact with is the mind. It is the mind that we can only truly know and grasp and understand, because that is the only world that the soul has direct contact with. Therefore, studying yourself, understanding esotericism, is the fundamental thing for me that changed my life. And I've applied this information into every aspect of my life, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, all realms. And it helps you accelerate yourself.
And this is why New Age spiritualism is such a disease. Anything that teaches you to go outside of yourself is honestly not really, I would say, is not as beneficial as going within, finding the power within, finding yourself, knowledge of self, self-mastery, learning about yourself, learning your world, so you can learn the world outside of yours.
It's like playing Grand Theft Auto. If you go and play Grand Theft Auto and you don't know how to work the buttons on Grand Theft Auto, then what happens? We don't have a good time in Grand Theft Auto because we don't know how to use the buttons. If I went to go play Grand Theft Auto, I can't play, I won't have a good experience, and I won't have the good things in the game. It's the same with reality. We don't understand the control behind reality, consciousness, the psyche. We don't live a good life. We don't live a balanced life, mentally or physically, both realms. And that is why it's so important to understand consciousness and the human psyche, psyche and esotericism. And that's why symbolism is so powerful, because symbols are not just symbols. They are visual representations of consciousness. These are all symbols of the human psyche. It represents the different states, how they work, how they function, and what we should do. Symbols unlock teachings, unlock the powers of consciousness that were there already, but were just unconscious in our mind. If we want to call it the elites want us to stay ignorant. They don't want us to understand that we are conscious creators and self-sovereign beings with our own freedom and free will. The law is already inside of us. They remain on our ignorance, because when we all wake up and realize we're conscious creators, they fall out of power. And that's why I've written these books, the Book of Symbolism, and they've helped thousands of people. I want to say thank you all, because we've hit an Amazon bestseller, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Thank you all. If you wish to get the books, they'll be in the description. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you love this information, and I'll see you all again in the next video. Take care of yourself.
But yeah, bro, it truly is important to, again, go within. I'm never going to teach anybody to go outside of yourself for things that you can get within. Going within is the most beneficial thing you can do. Allowing yourself to sit with yourself, learn yourself, listen to yourself, identify and be aware of who is talking. Is it the masculine brain? Is it the left side? Is it the survival aspect? Is it the light aspect? Or is it the feminine brain, the right side of the brain, the right hand path, the spiritual aspect, the mind, the moon, the dark aspect? Is a yin or a yang? It's important to understand these things. Understand your body, understand your multiple bodies, it's important to understand all of these things so you can have a well-balanced life. Well-rounded, well-balanced, and yeah, well-rounded, well-balanced life, I guess you could say. It definitely does help when you're just walking through life, man. It truly does.